everyone. John Kindervag here, Chief Evangelist of Illumio, and I'm also the creator of Zero Trust. And welcome to the Cloud Security Alliance Zero Trust Summit 2024. Today, I'm going to be channeling Charlie Munger and talking to you about the power of incentives. So stay tuned. It's going to be a little bit different than what you're used to, especially from me, but I think in general, in the way we talk about cybersecurity. So if you're not familiar with Charlie Munger, he passed away last year, lived a ripe old age. He should be more famous than he is because he was Warren Buffett's partner at Berkshire Hathaway. And Warren Buffett, of course, everybody's very familiar with him. He's super famous. But Charlie Munger was kind of the guy behind the scenes. And he would pop up a couple times a year, usually at the Berkshire Hathaway, annual meeting. He gave a few speeches. There's a great book called Charlie Munger's Almanac that collects a lot of his sayings and thoughts. A very deep thinker, but one of the things he thought about a lot was incentives, and he really inspired me. And he said this. He said, "Show me the incentive, and I will show you the outcome." Let's just think about that. Show me the incentive, and I will show you the outcome. And when I look at the outcomes in cybersecurity, I often trace them back to poor or perverse incentives that give us bad outcomes. And so that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit today. Just we're going to touch on this subject, tease it out a little bit, because you're going to be hearing a lot more about this topic from me, and probably from some other people that I'm going to do some other webinars and articles and things like that. So if we go back to Charlie Munger and we start to put this into perspective, we can kind of see where this goes. And in fact, I wrote an article for the Financial Times recently. You can click on that QR code right there, and it'll take you directly to it, called "Incentives Matter: Why Zero Trust Mandates Aren't Enough." And what I meant by that in the article is that you can force people, do it, but you have to incentivize. Now, of course, a mandate is a type of incentive, but it's a little bit of the stick and not the carrot, as people like to say. And so what we have to do is figure out how to incentivize people to do the right thing. In fact, most people want to do the right thing, but they have a set of disincentivizations that keep them from doing the right thing. So they're afraid of doing the wrong thing so much that they won't do the right thing. And this is the real problem that we have in cybersecurity. And how do we solve that? How do we figure out what we're going to do? Well, we need to look at some examples. So the first example is the presidential executive order from 2021 that President Biden signed, this executive order on improving the nation's cybersecurity. And in that cybersecurity executive order, he said the federal government must adopt security best practices and advance towards a zero trust architecture. Now, I spent a lot of time working with the U.S. federal government, the DoD, and all of the allied governments around the world, as well as big corporations, and I travel constantly. And this changed the game. We used to joke, a lot of us in the zero trust world, that zero trust was like Fight Club. The first rule is you don't talk about it, and people didn't want to talk about it if they were doing it. In one way, they thought it put a target on their back, and in another way, they thought it just made them look silly because there was so much opposition to zero trust. Oh, that's not the way we've always done it. I mean, I would be very wealthy if I could have gotten paid every time somebody said that to me. But this changed the game. It said, yes, not only can you talk about it, you should talk about it, because you have to do it. I mean, there's just no choice in the U.S. federal government. And this is expanding globally into lots of other countries that either have a specific similar kind of order or compliance mandate about zero trust, or they're working on it. So this was the big deal. This was the tipping point. Now, where did this come from? This came out of a big data breach called the OPM data breach. And I think a lot of people are familiar with it. It stands for the Office of Personnel Management. And there were a little over 22 million people whose records were compromised, which doesn't sound like a lot now because we have so much breach fatigue. But these weren't 22 million just regular people. These were 22 million people in the U.S. federal government. I was recently at a military base giving a presentation for a part of the DoD. And a lot of times when I'm giving a speech and I get to this slide, I'll say, "Hey, how might raise your hand if you were caught up in the OPM data breach?" But this time I did it differently. I said, "Raise your hand if you didn't get caught up in the OPM data breach." And I was the only person raising my hand in the entire room. And it was a very big room with a lot of people. And so this is a very big deal. An adversarial nation state stole the data about the background data about all of our people who have top secret clearances and above. And it also stole their fingerprints, the digital representation of the fingerprints. Now, think about that, what that means. That means you can't, biometrics are essentially off the table for a lot of these people. Because what are you going to do? Go to the help desk and have them reissue fingerprints? Doesn't work. So the outcome of this was very devastating for our country. And by the way, the head of the OPM was fired because this data breach happened. And I could go on and on about certain things that happened here, but you should do some research and look it up and read her congressional testimony, which is very eye-opening about a lack of proper incentives, about protecting what is arguably some of the most important data that we had in the United States federal government. I mean, this was essentially the knock list from Mission Impossible 1 when Tom Cruise was hanging upside down on that funky trapeze thing. And he was catching his sweat because if the sweat dropped, it hit the floor and an alarm would go off. And he was trying to steal the NOC or non-operational covers list, the list of spies. He didn't need to do that. It wasn't protected anywhere near like that. He needed to compromise one credential and then do some SQL injection. That's it. It was very simple. And so this changed the game because the United States House of Representatives then did a very deep dive investigation. And their report was called The OPM Data Breach: How the Government Jeopardized Our National Security for More Than a Generation. And when this report came out in 2016, I was invited to go to Capitol Hill. I met with the staff who put this together, and I met with one of the congressmen who's on this list, the Honorable Will Hurd, who was the chairman of the subcommittee on information technology. Will Hurd is retired from Congress now, but he had been a CIA agent. He'd been a cybersecurity executive. He knew what was going on. And I got an opportunity to go to his office and meet with him and talk to him about zero trust, because in this report, for the first time ever, the US federal government made the call and they said the OMB should provide guidance to agencies to promote a zero trust IT security model. This rocked everything. This began the process that led to the presidential executive order that brought zero trust to the forefront. And this OMB order, M2209, actually did come out 6 years later, January of 2022. And if you go through this in detail, you'll see that every federal agency has to have a zero trust program management office and a zero trust program manager, and has to move and make specific deadlines. And so this is a big deal. And it is one of the things that's kept me on the road. And there's a lot of people looking to what the US federal government did, and they're going to adopt it in their own governments. So I have literally traveled more this year than I ever have in my life. And I never thought that would be possible given some of the things that I've done in the past. So this just changed the game. This is the background of why we're seeing this huge, massive movement, global movement around zero trust. So let's get back to incentives, because the incentives are so important. Um, we don't incentivize people to do the right thing. In fact, most people are managing their own downside risk more than they are trying to make things better for their own company. As one friend of mine says, one oopsie negates 1,000 attaboys. We're always looking to blame people. We're always looking to get people in trouble. We're always looking to find the thing that you did wrong instead of celebrate the thing that you did right. And this is a perverse incentives that keeps us from getting better and better at cybersecurity. If we can change the incentive structures inside cybersecurity, we can make a difference, and we can begin to win the cyber war that we are in today. You know, we are in a cyber war. If you are in cybersecurity, you're a warrior. Cybersecurity is one of only three adversarial businesses. Those businesses are the military, law enforcement, and cyber. So think of yourself as a cyber warrior fighting an adversary. What would you do if you were in the military, or law enforcement? You would have a mission. You would have a goal that you would achieve, and you can't be worried about doing the wrong thing as you're approaching that mission. But so many people are worried about getting in trouble that they do nothing. And this is actually a complaint that I hear from a lot of cybersecurity executives. They can't get people to do the right thing. And it's because we don't have the right set of incentives from the right stakeholders to drive the right behavior. So in 1995, Charlie Munger gave a speech called The Psychology of Human Misjudgment. Fascinating speech, and you should read it, the whole thing. I'm just going to excerpt one little piece of it. And in this speech, he says this: never a year passes, but I get some surprise that pushes a little farther my appreciation of incentive superpower. Proper incentives are a superpower. It's a superpower that gets people to move in the right direction, to do the right thing, to be mission focused, to have a reason to get up in the morning, to feel good about what they do, to know that they're making a difference and making the world a little bit better. So what can you do? Well, that's a good question. Let me tell you what we're doing at Illumio. At Illumio, we're going to issue some research about incentives beyond just the article that I wrote for Financial Times. We are, in fact, going to issue our own internal executive order coming from our CEO and co-founder, Andrew Rubin, where he essentially does an organizational zero trust executive order mandating that we do zero trust, which is actually fairly easy for us because we're pretty much already doing that. But essentially telling people that you won't get in trouble if you're attempting to do zero trust and something goes awry. You know, we're all human beings. There's going to be mistakes made, and we can't just play this blame game all the time. And so it's up to leadership, the strategic actors in your organization, to change the incentive structure. It won't bubble up from the bottom up. It has to be pushed down from the top down. So every organization must issue a zero trust executive order that comes from your top leadership, your CEO, your board of directors, your executive director. And it doesn't matter whether you're a publicly traded company, a private company, a nonprofit, whatever kind of organization you are, you can still do this. So this is the key takeaway. Issue an executive order on zero trust that comes from the very top, that provides air cover for the people who want to do the right thing, but they're afraid to do the right thing because they're afraid of getting in trouble for attempting to do the right thing. And then if something happens that isn't perfect, then they're going to get blamed. Maybe they'll get fired. We have to get rid of that culture. That culture is toxic, and those ideas are antiquated. So you're going to see this come out from us here at Illumio in the very near future. We are working on it as I speak. I've been reviewing some drafts of this, and so we're massaging it, and you'll see us release our own executive order coming from our CEO, and you'll see it released in a way that's sort of a template that anybody can use. Now, it's not going to be as complicated as the one that came from the president, and it doesn't need to be because it doesn't have to have the force of law, but it is a mandate from leadership. It is an incentive from leadership. And that's what we need if we're going to get people to do the right thing, to be comfortable doing the right thing, so that we can achieve our mission, which is defeating our cyber adversaries. So I hope you enjoy the rest of this conference, this Zero Trust Summit. It's exciting to be part of the Cloud Security Alliance and what we're doing to bring zero trust to the entire world. And I hope that you'll join with us, and you're welcome to contribute to become part of what we're doing. It's a global movement, and I really thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today.